Hi there, welcome back. I would like for us to continue the conversation that we began last week on how to love ourselves. How to love ourselves. Thank you to all who watched. And from them, I got a lot of feedback. And basically, the question was for us to discuss more on how we navigate this very delicate balance between loving ourselves and loving our neighbors. What is the right balance, and how do we achieve that balance as we go into discovering more ways of loving ourselves in a healthy and wholesome way? The first thing that I would say in that conversation, and remember, we are taking this from the book of Mark, chapter 12, and verse 31, the verse that says, "Love thy neighbor as you love yourself," with the understanding that we cannot love our neighbors unless we love ourselves. So, the first thing in that conversation, I would say, is discovering who you are, spending time to recognize who you are and whose you are. There is this misconception that we all have to be the same, that the Lord does not give room for individuality, and that is a falsehood. And I pray that you will come to discover it as such for yourself. And I say that it is a falsehood because even if you look through nature, there are no two things that are alike. Even just looking at the flowers that there are roses, that there are daffodils, there are lilies, there are peonies, there are so many varieties, carnations. There are so many, there's so much diversity and variety even within nature. Even just looking at something as simple as cabbage, there's red cabbage or purple cabbage, whichever way you look at it, and there is your regular white cabbage. There's even broccoli and cauliflower. There's so much diversity that God has demonstrated to us in His creation. So why is it that we think that when it comes to human beings, that we all have to be the same and that we all have to think the same? So I believe that it is that diversity, that differentiation that God allows for us to have even within our Christian walk. And so the first understanding, the first foundation is knowing who you are and knowing whose you are, and recognizing and appreciating the different things about you and the different unique things about you that make you you. Your eccentricities, the way probably that you peel your orange, or the fact that you're an introvert or an extrovert. Spending time with yourself to know exactly who you are outside of the influence of everybody else, just you and God. Who did God create you to be? Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 6, I believe, says that when before we were formed in our mother's wombs, God knew us and He set us apart, meaning that there is something so intrinsically you. There is something that God has placed inside of you as an individual that there is no other person that has exactly what that is. And so it is time for us to celebrate. Part of loving ourselves is celebrating who we are, celebrating your body structure, celebrating your face, the way your face is made, celebrating your beauty, just who you are, who God created you to be, and being unapologetically just that. The fact that God has created you in the way that He has created you, because He has seen you and He did all of that and recognized that you are beautifully and wonderfully made, just the way you are. So that is the first understanding of that. And also, part of that is understanding that you need, based on that, based on knowing who you are, you need to then discover what are the things that you like. What are your hobbies? What are the things that make you feel closest to God? For some, it is being in nature and hiking and all of that. For others, it is music. For others, it is sharing the word. Whatever it is that God has given you, your talents, your skills, whatever it is, your abilities, all of those things that make you uniquely you are the things that you ought to celebrate as you navigate in the space between loving yourself and loving others. Because when you know who you are, when you understand who you are, what makes you you, then and you stand in that truth, then it's very easy for you to go into the next portion of this, of loving yourself, which is learning how to set your boundaries. Because you see, the thing is, we have, as Christians, sometimes we are made to think that self-care, like doing the things that make us happy, to be ourselves, that is a selfish thing. However, as one writer says, self-care is never a selfish act. It is just, and I'm paraphrasing here, it's simply being a good steward of the one thing that God has given you. And once you are really good at taking care of what God has given you, then you can do the other thing that God has asked you to do, which is pour out to others and share that part of yourself with others. And so once you recognize that, then it will be easy for you to set your boundaries. Now, boundaries are quite important in the in navigating this space between taking care of yourself and loving yourself, as well as taking loving others and taking care of them. Because when we don't have boundaries, when we do not know what our boundaries are and we do not set those boundaries well, then we become so enmeshed and so dependent on other people's ideas for our lives. We set God aside and we allow other people to dictate what our relationship with God should be, as well as we dictate to other people what our lives should be aside from God. It's almost as if we set aside what God has for us and we start giving people power that God did not intend for them to have over our lives. And a good example is that of that is when we don't set our own boundaries, when we don't look within ourselves and within what God has placed in us to validate us, then we look outward, we look to other people to do that for us. And that's why you'll find that sometimes we look to other people to make us happy, we look for other people to give us approval. Like, you cannot make a decision, our first inclination whenever we have a big decision is to ask other people instead of asking the God who created us and made us. We start looking to them to give us things, right? And that's part of, a dangerous slope, because then we go into relationships to look for things that we should already have within us, and those will inevitably end in hurt and pain, not just for ourselves but also for the other people. And so we need to learn how to have boundaries that are set in the I should say, in the environment of a healthy and wholesome individual self. And then we then now, once we have those boundaries, give people permission based on what we know about ourselves on how to navigate within our lives. And a good example of this is, have you ever met a person who perhaps is having a bad day, and everybody else may be having a great day, but whenever they come into the space that everybody else is in, just because they are having a bad day, they will make sure that everyone is having a bad day? Have you ever met people like that? Well, that is part of not learning yourself, not knowing yourself, not setting boundaries. Because just because you're having a bad day does not mean that you have to extend that to other people. It is recognizing within yourself that, hey, I'm having a bad day and I do not need to share that bad day with everybody else, right? I will do what I can to help others have a good day, even if I am having a bad day. That I only share the best parts of myself. That I am so aware of myself. I have loved myself enough to the point where I will not allow myself to share anything other than the best of me. That is also part of setting boundaries, is that you have learned yourself enough to know where your best self is best shared, or I should say when your best self is best shared, and maximizing in that space, that if I have not had a good night's rest, then I am not going to be my best self. So I need to prioritize my sleep so that I can share the best of me with other people. That if I have not spent time with God in prayer in the morning and in my devotional time, then I am not going to be in a good mood. So I need to prioritize having my devotion time and spending time with God so that I can share the best of me with other people. If have not eaten, then I know intrinsically that I am going to be in a bad mood. And so even if it means warning people in advance, you allow them to be able to learn that about you so that you are only sharing the best parts of yourself to the best of our abilities. Now, this is something I'm going to confess that I am personally struggling with. So I guess you could say that we are all on this journey, and that's the beauty of a journey, especially the journey to self-discovery, is that we're always learning things about yourself, because each and every day we are changing. We are being influenced by circumstances and relationships that are around us, that are informing how we navigate our daily lives. And so once I have done that, once I have made those conscious decisions and conscious discoveries about myself, then I am in the best position to to know when to love or how to love others as God has loved me. I hope that that has been a blessing to you, or that it has taught you maybe one or two things that you did not know, or if you already knew it, it has reinforced it for you. And I pray that we will meet next week as we delve into another topic. Feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what you think, or if there's anything I have missed out. I would love to hear from you. Have a blessed day, and share the love that God has given you. So let us have a loving day. Thank you.